Good morning, Detroit. Welcome to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show in our 25th year, giving you great mortgage and real estate information. We do promise to wake you folks up that stayed up for the Tiger game here, so keep it here. Let me introduce our full lineup here. We got Harry Glantz to my right. Hey, Harry.
Good morning. Speaking of that Tiger game, I was up all night long watching that game. And I'm going to tell you what, if you didn't have a rooting interest, which our team, we lost, but it was a tough game to watch. It was a hard game for Tiger fans. It was a great baseball game, 15 innings up till 1:30. I mean, great baseball game. It was fun but disappointing. But we got to put a little spin on it, Harvey. We're here to talk about mortgages, real estate, business in general. We've got a great show. It's going to be phenomenal, but we got to put some positive light on this.
We will. Becky Alley, of course, to my left here, wearing her Tiger orange, my favorite Tiger
logo.
I love that logo.
Yeah, old school logo.
Yeah, so if you're watching us on Facebook, you can see I'm wearing the old school Tiger. I had to give it up for my boys because
they had a good year.
That was a great game. They never gave up. It was so back and forth like tennis, like we're going, they're going, it was. That's what baseball's about. That's what makes it exciting. So shout out to the Tigers. They put up a good fight, but we'll get them next year. You know what I mean?
We said we're going to do mortgages and real estate. That's for sure. Special guest realtor Michael Allen. Hey, Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in. Associate broker with National Realty. Of course, you guys got 4 or 6 offices all around Southeast Michigan.
Yes. Yeah, we have one in Clarkston, Northville, Birmingham, and Ann Arbor.
Great. Yeah. You're going to cover all the areas. So Mike brings in a ton of information. Mike, thank you not only for coming in and doing the show with us, which is a lot of fun, but you're prepared. And you wrote like a 4 or 5 page essay here or something. So we really appreciate it. We'll talk all about mortgages and real estate. It's a live show. Harry, we take your calls at 248-539-9797.
So Harry was killing me yesterday because I redlined your outline yesterday.
Okay.
I killed. He was killing me. But anyways, so the positive spin on it, you wrote a lot of great things. I read your outline.
Okay.
And I really liked it. And we talk about realtors and real estate and the markets, and it's really about being prepared. Right? You have to be prepared. And if you're not prepared to list a house, when you walk into that listing appointment, Mike, tell me about what your approach is when you're going on a listing call and you're going to sit in front of those homeowners and you're going to list their house. Give me 2 or 3 tidbits and highlights of what you do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first and foremost, I try to understand who the client is. You got to connect with them. That's most important. And then what are they looking to do? What's their timeline? That's important as well. So you just understand the market and try to figure out, what time they're looking, what's the day, like when are they looking to sell? And that's the first 2 key points I do before I even meet them, is really get an understanding of what they're looking for.
Yeah, goals and expectations. Yeah. It's situational. It's just like baseball. The market changes daily, weekly, monthly. So you go in and you set the expectations, right? Mike, I want to sell my house in the first 48 hours. What happens?
It can happen, but you never know. With this market the way it is with low inventory, it very well could happen.
Every home presents its own objections and things out there that we have to present to families and get them out there. When you're talking about those important things, like you said, the timeline's one of them. Yeah. Definitely, like how soon do you need to be out, and then also with the negotiations. Like after the closing, do they need some days of occupancy? Because this has really been a thing lately where more and more families, Becky, seem like on the purchase agreements, they do need 30 or 60 days. I have some now, and they want to push back the closing a little bit just because they're building new construction and the builder's taking a little bit longer than they originally agreed to.
I mean, what Mike's saying, it's about motivation. What is your motivation to buy and sell? And we're in a market right now where when you are selling to buy, you're not exactly going to lose an offer if you're contingent on the sale of your home because houses are sitting a little bit longer days on market. Even though it's technically a seller market on paper, buyers can have their own version of concessions too. So if a buyer's like, okay, well, I have to sell my house to buy, that won't be necessarily a deal killer, but if it maybe 6 months ago, it was. And we're in that like part of the market where, if you need to buy to sell, we have to have a very strategic game plan on the buying side as well. Do we need to do a bridge loan? How are we going to get those assets? And, that's why it's like very important for us to be in alignment with a real estate agent. So that way, not only do you know the motivations of the seller, but we know the motivations of the buyer. So we can have a clean sale from start to finish. And everyone has, all their boxes checked at the same time.
2 of the agents we had, and most recently, Mike definitely talked about, hey, look, if I know there's not a match between me and the seller's I don't even take those clients. I just don't want to. I don't want to engage with them if they're not, and then you write these things down. Why? Because of the communication. If you're not feeling that communication, if they're not going to trust you, they're not comfortable with that communication, then it's just not going to work out. And so often we hear the agents are like, you know what, we've got to drop the price now, or look, we tried your strategy. Now let's try to work it this way. Do you find that going on a lot with still in today's marketplace? Because I'm seeing these houses sit on the market for a little bit longer than they were.
Yeah, I think, especially going into the cold season, things are starting to sit a little bit more. I think days on market has definitely increased, from, the market took off, I would say, in June, May and June, and then things are starting to slow down a little bit. So people still have unrealistic expectations of prices are astronomical, and I could get, an arm and a leg for these houses. And you still can. The key point is you have to price it right, and agents can be, you have to also find the right agents really, really important, because you have to connect with them, on a personal level. If you don't connect with them, you have to be comfortable. This is a big asset, and you have to make sure you're getting the right money and you're not hanging on to something if you need to sell. So. All
right, you wrote down some red flags here to look out for. I'm just going to say them out loud. A couple of the things: pushy, oversellsy. They don't listen to you. They only tell you what you want to hear. You're listing your house, and someone comes and says, "Yeah, we can get $350 for your house." Yeah, you've already done the homework. You know the market's selling for the low 300s. And then, of course, you're looking at what homes sold. You can take a look to see what homes sold. Were they updated? Were they in moving condition? All of this plays a huge part in when you're going to get that listing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, like I said, it goes back to this. Have a good connection with your real estate agent, no matter who you hire. Make sure you look at the data and interpret the data and understand what the listing agent is telling you. That's really important. If you feel like it's not a good connection, walk. That's plain and simple.
Yeah, I like that philosophy. It has to be about the relationship. Everything in life starts with the relationship. If you're clicking with somebody and you feel that positive vibe, you're going and you're off to the races. But if you're sitting across from somebody and you're not getting good vibrations, that was
I
a
like
song.
that one.
Like that one?
Yeah.
That's old.
That's a good song, but I'm all about those vibrations.
So, yeah, you are. We vibe out. And in life, you have to have a positive spin on it. And that's what I'm talking about. It's the relationship. And everything is the relationship. But if I have unreal expectations as a seller and you're telling me the truth and I just don't want to go ahead and believe it, that doesn't make for a good relationship. So we talk about it. This is a hardcore mortgage real estate business show. We come on here every week. How many years, Harvey?
25.
25
We're
years.
halfway to 50.
And we, and we tell people the truth. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. And as I was redlining your thing last night, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? We got to tell the truth. You always have to tell the truth. Because if you don't and you get in and you just take that listing as a realtor to get the listing, to put it on your books because you want a listing and it doesn't sell, sometimes the deals you never take are the best ones. All right?
Yeah, the truth, I mean, if you make enough phone calls, we all know this. Someone's going to tell you what you want to hear, but it's not what you need to hear. And, we talk about often right now where there's two listings on a block. You're either the main character energy or you're the supporting character energy. And just because you go in high, that means that you're probably going to be the supporting character now because that other listing that listened to their agent like you, Mike, and they priced it right. Now they got competitive offers. They're now setting the new baseline for that neighborhood. And that other house is probably irritated because they sat there longer. They weren't getting the multiple offers. And they're like, well, why didn't I sell? And it's because there's a reason why you hire a professional agent. And not everyone is equal. They're really not. I mean, even on the lending side, right? Like whether it's us or somebody else, like not everyone is equal. And just because someone tells you what you want to hear, it's not really going to be, your end result is going to be the same.
So the problem is in the mortgage industry, people are going to tell you whatever rate you want to hear. Now, we can get you any rate. We can get you 3% right now if you want to pay 10 points. Your rate? Okay, but they don't tell you that. They'll tell you they'll get you 5.99, but it's going to cost you 2 points. All right, when the rates are really about 6 3/8 or somewhere. And it's so nitpicky, but people just want to hear the lowest rate around. Which isn't bad, but you're going to have to pay for it. It's the same thing in your world. All right, people want to hear that you could sell their house for top dollar, but it might not necessarily be true. You really have to do your homework, and we're really passionate about that. And just tell the truth, everybody.
Yeah, like so. And as far as before I get into the rates, because that's a whole other thing. But like with you, Mike, on your side, right? It's not just sticking a sign in the yard, right? There is pricing, marketing. like part of like when you were saying, okay, these are the fees, right? Part of that commission that's being paid goes to your job is to get as many eyeballs on that property as possible. And you guys are all over Michigan. So when someone is saying, I want to list it for this, like, what is that? I want our listeners to know, like, really what goes into that strategy behind getting those multiple offers. But again, it's not even getting multiple offers. Who cares if you get the right offer at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's a good question. And to answer your question, I think it's really important to note that you have to price it right. And you brought up a good topic saying, hey, there's two houses on the same street. One, both are actively listed. When you go in, you really want to see not only what the comps have sold, you use those to price a house, but you want to see what's pending and what's active, because you really want to know what your competition's out there and how does your house compare to what's active currently in the market. So that just goes into playing, make sure you price it right. And if it's priced too high and you got another house that's $50,000 less, it's in better condition, you're not selling.
For sure. Yeah. And that's and that also goes to motivation. What is your motivation? Are you pricing to sell, but are you priced right? Because people are going to throw more rocks, or not in a bad way, but they're going to throw more stones in the water at the one that's priced a little bit more like ideally in their price point, and it's going to drive it up. And then but I want to also talk about, I had another conversation similar to this. Someone was like, I want to sell my house or buy a new house, but I overpaid in 2020 and I don't want to have to overpay again. Right. But if you look at the data, even though in the moment, in that crazy time that sometimes I still can't believe it really was reality during that moment 5 years ago, the people that bought during that time, you look like geniuses because the appreciation plus the interest rate. So it's like, I'm like, did you really overpay? I mean, you actually got a perfect market where, yeah, you had to throw a little bit more cash at the property, but the return and the proceeds that you have now to turn around and throw at your next house is just, you can't compare it.
Look, there's people that are willing to pay 30, 40, 50. We've seen it over $100,000 over asking because they want to be in that community. They want to be in that city, and that's okay. And if you don't care what the value is today, perfect. If you're raising your family, you're going to worry about that 15, 20, maybe even 35 years from now. All right, we got tons of information for you. You're listening to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. When we come back, all of your calls at 248-539-9797. Keep it here. Welcome back to the show, 8:15. If you're just joining us, it's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. I know y'all folks a little tired out there listening to the ball game last night, but we got the Lions tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
All right, Lions got
At
Detroit.
KC, Arrowhead
Kansas City.
Stadium, Kansas City.
Got the Red Wings getting off the the loss they had. They'll tie. They'll get back into
They
the
scored the first goal of the season, then gave up 5.
Ouch. That's okay. Wings tonight. Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We got tons of information. This morning, the Mortgage Real Estate Show. I'm Harvey Freed, Becky Alley, Harry Glanz. Michael Allen joins us. We're going to get right into it, Mike. Buyers are out there. Everyone's negotiating for those first-time home buyers especially. I've got a plethora of 25-year-olds to about 40-year-olds buying their first house, and it's exciting. I love the energy they bring, and we're educating them on every step. And one of the educational pieces you wrote about was the inspection starts really before you even walk in the house, because you're already outside checking out what's going on. You might even be looking at the grading of the house, all sorts of things. When you drive into a subdivision, if it's broken up and look like landmines already hit the street, that's going to be a road problem, maybe an association increase, an assessment down the road. Talk about some of these things during showings, other things you can look out for just as you're starting to review the property.
Yeah, it's a good question. And it goes down to hiring the right agent. So when you go and look at a house and you do the first showing of a house and you go inside, look at the big things, the big ticket items: furnace, AC, windows, roof. Is there any water smelling in the basement? Is it damp? Is there any cracks in the foundation? A good thing to note is if you have a house that is center block and there's a horizontal crack in the center block, I would just run. It depends on what the house is worth. If you're getting a steal, fine, you can do the work and fix it. That's another thing. But if you're a first-time home buyer and you don't know what's going on, it's probably not the right house for you.
Yeah. We love that conversation. We love the inspection conversation. We are adamant about not waiving the inspection.
Oh, never.
And even if you hire an inspector, things come up. I've had clients that have hired inspectors. Inspectors miss things. Asbestos in the house. All right, that's a big one.
Well, there's also things you can't see. You can't see sewer line. You can't see well and septic when you do a first walkthrough. I mean, obviously you get a professional inspection 100%. But, when it comes to sewer lines, I've had my deals break, but at least it's not my buyer's problem, it's the seller's problem at that point, right? And that's really important, and even the attic. Sometimes there's mold in the attic. Sometimes there's not proper airflow, and that can kill a deal too, and it could be thousands of dollars to fix it,
Yeah,
the inspection starts,
waive it.
and the inspection starts before you even hire the inspector. Yeah. You even might not have made an offer yet, but it's so important when you walk in, Mike. That's the key with, I think, when I talk to a lot of agents, is when I get the feeling like, wow, they're really on top of their game versus the ones that aren't, is when they start talking about, I went into the house and I noticed these things, right? Because these things are important. You're talking about furnace. So I call up a listing agent, one of my million favorite stories, and I get the text back, hey, I'm at a showing right now. Can I call you back in an hour? And I'm like, sure. Give me a call whenever you're free. And I get the call back an hour later, and I'm like, oh, great, you were at a showing? I'm like, oh, how old was the furnace? And the phone goes dead. And I'm like, you were just at a showing. And she said, I don't know how old the furnace was. And it's just weird conversations. We're like, well, what were you doing in the house? So, Becky, I think it all starts with not only building the confidence of your team, like you said, those top agents, the top loan officers, but what value do they bring and what are they pointing out to you even before you get out of the car?
Yeah, there's, like I said, not everyone is equal, but not everyone's going to be just like you either. We're obviously, we are really experienced, and I feel like sometimes we are so good at our jobs that we almost take certain things for granted a little bit, where it's like we assume people know, and we assume that other loan officers or other real estate agents, and you're, on your side of the, the coin, are having these conversations. Really, so we get hit, the number one question we just talked about in between the break was, what's your rate? What's your rate? What's your rate? What's your rate? I can't give you an interest rate unless I know what your credit score is. What are your goals? What kind of property are you looking at? Are we looking at a condo? Is it new construction? Are we, are you a first-time buyer? There's so much that goes into it. So when the consumer, because that's what they've been programmed to ask, just calls us and asks, what's your rate? What's your rate? If someone just slings a rate at you on the phone, you need to probably hang up the phone, because all they're doing is saying just enough to get you to allow them to give you your sensitive information, and then they're going to ask you for an appraisal fee. So they got you hooked on the credit card immediately, and now you feel locked in and you feel obligated to use that person. We do not ask for credit cards. I'm not asking for someone's credit card until I'm like, I don't know, probably like we're actually under contract or we're actually moving forward. So to our people out there, in the first 5 minutes, or you're getting asked for your credit card information, you're talking to a lender, I don't care who it is, you need to hang up the phone and talk to another person that's going to actually give you advice that doesn't have commission breath. That's just there.
Yeah. Commission breath is funny. 248-539-9797. Michael Allen from National Realty joined us. I'll stick with your inspection stuff because a lot of buyers out there need to hear this kind of good stuff. If the house needs $10,000 worth of repairs, well, you're hiring an agent, a real estate agent that can point out what these costs are. Sure. You can look at the roof and you can determine where you're at with that. But more importantly, you don't run from that house. Maybe, as you said earlier, Mike, it might have 40 or 50,000 in equity if you just put the right touches on it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think about it, you have to have a good agent to understand what the house could be worth after you put some capital improvements into it, right?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, let's say, for example, Harry, Harvey, you brought up a good point about an egress window in the basement. Okay, there's an egress window already there. Maybe the house has 3 bedrooms and you add a 4th, you're adding value. It doesn't add to the above square feet.
Right. Oh, yes. See,
look
at
him. Smart like that.
Yeah, look at him.
But at the end of the day, it's how can you add value? Is capital improvements worth it? And sometimes first-time home buyers, they don't see that. There are some red flags when you walk into a house if there's cracks in the foundation or if the roof is caving in. Yeah, probably not the first house for you. But it's really important to understand. Okay, the agent should tell you what does it cost for an AC? What is a furnace? Is it high efficiency? Is it not high efficiency? Or, what does it cost, to remodel a owner's suite bathroom, stuff like that. You should have those numbers and those add value. They really do. And if you look in a house that you think it's underpriced, I'll tell you. And I'll say, hey, this is totally worth the value.
So, okay, real quick, you're talking about furnaces too, right? So I am a homeowner, everybody. And my furnace, I think, was maybe like 10, 12 years old, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I left my house, come into my house. I was maybe gone for like 20 minutes, thank God. And my whole entire house was filled with like haze, and you could smell like smoke and
what was this?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was literally like 2 weeks ago. I had to call the fire department. It was a whole thing, right? And I was like running through my house. I'm like getting the animals out of the house. I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So turns out my furnace, the board surged. So like the fire department, they were like, there was nothing in there. I'm like, because obviously I couldn't see it, so it had to be in my walls, right? So anyway, the furnace, the board burnt out and it pushed that smoke through my house. It was very scary, to be honest with you. And so even just that minor repair between the board and the fan going out, that was like $3,600 to have someone come out and do the thing. So, it's when you're doing those inspections, like you said, there's things that you miss. There's things that the inspector can't anticipate. You can't hold everyone accountable for certain things that are just going to happen naturally when you are a homeowner. However, it also goes into that budgeting too, right? Because once you own that property, you could do the best inspection ever. There was no way that I ever was going to guess that my board was going to surge out and make me feel like my house was burning down.
That's a one-off for sure. Yeah.
Yes, but those things happen. But you need to make sure that also when you're making these calls, it's more than just what's your rate, it's what's your budget, what can you afford? Can you, are you a first-time buyer? Can you help, are the mold in the attic, is that all right? Do you know how someone that can help you fix that? All that goes into the strategy and the team that you have around you to make sure that once you drive that house off the lot and you're the owner and something goes on, can you afford those repairs? And it's very important that you have a team and not just a yes man by your side.
All right, how about this one? Harry, when we first got in the industry, we used to see a lot of this. We're us old-timers. The sellers would actually put out their maintenance records. Boy, I love that. That's a house you want to buy. So if you walk into a house with your real estate agent and the person living there, whether it's an old man or an old lady, or someone who's just really intense about keeping all the records, here, I bought the furnace. Mm-hmm. Here's the warranty with it. Here's the hot water. We changed the filters. That's probably going to be one of those homes that's very well kept. And I don't know if agents are even getting those anymore. But, I mean, back in the day, the buyers used to ask for, hey, can I see your utility bills and things like that. Mike, do you see this anymore?
Oh, often. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I mean, when I walk properties, I definitely see, user manuals.
Oh, I love that.
When was this installed? Even going back to, if I'm a listing agent, I ask my clients, what have you updated the last 5-10 years? Break it down, and I like to provide it to the appraiser.
Mike, I'm of that belief that listing realtors know exactly what's going on in that house. There are no surprises. So when a buyer comes in, I mean, you know how old the roof is. You know how old the furnace is, the hot water heater, maybe you have 2 of them. You know about that. So when those objections come up, you can go ahead and you could say to your seller, hey, listen, you know the roof is 24 years old. You do. So you might have to negotiate a little bit off of that. I'm of the belief that you guys know that going in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to have realistic expectations, and you don't want to hide anything. That's the last thing you want to do in this business. It can come back and haunt you big time. So disclose what you know and, be transparent through and through.
That's Harvey's pet peeve, seller's disclosures, right, Harv?
Definitely want to read those.
Yeah.
Let's go to it real quick before you go to break. Prepping for the sale. Once you're ready to sell, you've got all you're organized, you're ready to get it listed out there. Clean landscape, replacing bulbs, cleaning up, obviously decluttering the house. Anything else out there that's really been exciting this time of the year? I just saw the weather. There's been a lack of rain around here. Sometimes we always say that the best time to buy a house is after 2 or 3 days of rain. That way you can see what this rain is creating. Water always finds those cracks in. And, if you've got an issue with that, after 2 or 3 days of rain, we might say, you don't see that today. It's been so dry out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, what to do when you before you prep and list the house. Good key feature is always clear off the countertops for professional photos, and declutter. Less is more. That's really important. And if you need to store anything, I typically don't take pictures inside the garage. Take all your items, put them in the garage, and then bring it back for showings. It makes it easy. But pictures are very important. Get professional photos. Do not ever not get professional photos.
All righty. Hey, we're up against our second break here, 8:27. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. We got some calls coming in. Come and join the show. 248-539-9797. We'll talk to you when we come back. Welcome back to the show, 831. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. We love bringing you real estate talk. We talk some mortgages, and we got Sam who's on the line. Of course, Michael Allen joins us from National Realty. Hey, let's get Sam on the line here. Good morning, Sam. Welcome to the show. Looking to sell your house? Go ahead.
Yeah. How you guys doing? I'm
Fantastic.
looking to sell my house.
Good morning.
Great. Hey, what's your house sell? What's your neighborhood selling for, Sam? What are the price ranges?
Well, I seen some houses go, anywhere from 200 to 350 in my house, in my neighborhood. So, I bought my house back in 2010 and about 100 grand. I put about 20 grand into it or so. And now my realtor is not telling me, he's telling me it's worth like 120. I think I can get 200 for it, but.
Oh, we're going to get you a second opinion, all right.
What city are you in?
I'm in Redford.
It's a hot area, man. It's a hot area. Everyone's looking to get in over there. Westland, Livonia, the Redford Township. A lot of first-time home buyers over there. Michael, there's not a lot of homes in Redford. I'm just going to say this, Sam, right out loud. Go selling for 120. And Sam, I think you're on the money and you need a second opinion. You haven't agreed to any contracts yet with any listing agents quite yet?
No. Not my realtor is just like my neighbor down the street. I know him pretty well, but I haven't signed any paperwork like that or anything like that.
Well, I'll give you a little Detroit talk. He's fixing to get your house sold to his neighbor, his friend. He's looking to buy
I want to hear what Mike's got to say. So what do you think about that area? Like, I
love Redford. I think it's great. Yeah. I mean, I've done many deals in Redford. I think it's a great opportunity to tap into. You got the golf course over there too.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, that's a nice golf course over there.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I just make sure my opinion is I think you should get multiple realtors to give you some good advice and, maybe pick and choose who you want to work with. But, at the end of the day, just make sure you not say shop around, but make sure you're comfortable with your realtor.
Now, the 20 grand worth of updates, what are those specifically? Like, you don't have to tell us like every little bit, but what big ones did you do in the house?
Yeah, so I redid the floors. I got, the hardwood floors. I kind of updated the bathroom a little bit. I mean, not like the piping or that, but just kind of spruced it up a little bit. And yeah, just some little things around the house. But I mean, it looks nice in my opinion.
Sounds good.
Well, no doubt. And so I'm on Facebook right now. My girl Katie Wheeler's tuning in, and she's like, even the rec center in Redford is going to be epic that they're building. So Redford is up and coming, and it's always been around, but. That is a price point that people really need to be in right now because there's a big gap. You're either a 150 to 2, and then there's like a huge gap between 2 and 4. So, Redford Homes, like that's a great area, and people are, like I said, people are really kind of navigating towards those areas as well. So I don't think you're going to have too much trouble selling it for the right price with the right realtor.
Sam, we're going to get your phone number, and I think Paul already did, which is great. So we're going to have Michael give you a call after. And again, there's no cost. He'll come over to the house, show you what the neighborhood's selling for. And I've got one other question for you. Sam, when you sell this house, where are you moving to?
Oh, man, I don't even know yet. I just kind of, I just want the money.
You got the money. Where are you going to live? Where are you going to live, though?
Harvey, he'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
Sell the house, he'll worry about that later.
I'll worry about that later. Once Mike sells my house, I'll move in with him.
All right, we're definitely going to put a plan together. That's not happening, but Sam, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. And again, there's a lot of it just comes up all the time. Hey, my neighbor came over. I had a small conversation, and he put a number on the house. That's not always correct. And like you said, Mike, you definitely got to research it with some other agents.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah, I mean, especially in that price point, under 300,000 is just flying off the market. Right now. And you make sure you price it right, like I told you guys. But at the end of the day, I mean, Redford's a great city. Inventory's still super low, and it's a great intro area too for any buyers, like for MJA programs or any stuff like that.
I'm glad you brought that up. Definitely, Becky. Of course, one house goes for $220,000, but it might have a basement and a garage. And now that same person down the street, their house is a little different. Maybe they're on a crawl space and they don't have a garage, but maybe they've really fixed up the house. So there's always different caveats about any particular property.
Again, it depends on what the buyer wants. Some people don't care about a garage. And then when they buy the house, it doesn't have the garage. They're like, I want to build a garage because now I wish I had a garage, because you acquire so many things when you are like a homeowner. You're like, when I was moving, I was like, oh my God, how did I get all this stuff after 5 years? But storage is a big deal. But what's important to one person is not important to the same, right? It's literally everything is like Harry's favorite word is situational. What are you doing? Where are you going? How are you going to get there? What do you need? What do you want? And what is your desire for moving? And, to really kind of listen to the people and like listen to what they're not saying too. You can really uncover what their goals are. And, like someone might say, I want a 3-car garage and all the things. And then once you get out there, like, oh, really, that's not important. I don't want a basement. I don't want it to flood. I want to be on a slab. So it just depends.
That's why that was such a great call, because his goal is he wants to sell the house. He wants to get the right price for it. He's obviously put in some work. You got to do the homework. You got to see the market analysis. You got to see what's been selling in that neighborhood comparable to that home. And he's ready to go. He just wants to get a fair price so he can move on. He's not worried about where he's going to go. He just wants to sell that house. He'll figure that out. I like that a lot. Just, a bird in the hand. Get the money now. We'll worry about where I'm going to go later. But if you could sell that house, if he could sell that house for around what he wants to get for it, you've got a great opportunity to buy a house at a great price point that had a little bit of work done. And it's probably, I'm going to bet, move-in condition.
For sure. And then you got the local neighborhood realtor, right?
The brother-in-law's brother?
For sure. Yeah,
sometimes they're okay. It's all good.
It's fine. But most people like you, there's a difference between a full-time, real professional realtor and then someone that just does it part-time. And honestly, like even with like we're all walking around with a PhD on our phone, like everyone is a real estate expert if you ask the right person, but that is the living room talk, the Thanksgiving, everyone's like, what's in real estate? What's the rates? Everyone, everyone's talking about it, whether they're in the industry or not. And everyone's got an opinion, but if you ask the wrong person, you're going to get some real wacky advice. And so the 120 in Redford, I'm going to say, I think we can do better than that.
A lot better than that. We'll definitely take that. Let's take a look at that one. 248-539-9797. Investors are making up the highest share of homeowners in 5 years. Mike, you brought it up even because we talked about some DSCR loans and other ways that investors are your competition if you're a first-time home buyer, because they realize quickly that home values in Southeast Michigan are continuously going up. We talk about it often. You got out-of-state investors who are always calling you looking for the next deal. They would love to buy a house that has $40,000, $50,000, $80,000 in equity already because some uneducated seller took the wrong advice.
I mean, where are you going to buy a duplex for under $150,000 right now?
In Southeast Michigan.
Exactly. I mean, you can definitely do very well in returns here if you know what you're doing, you know your numbers. And that makes a good point is when you're working with your agent, make sure you have a good agent that's investor oriented if you are an investor, so they can break down the numbers for you. What are your expenses? What's the house worth fully remodeled? What can you rent it for? What's your gross rents? That's all really important stuff there.
All right.
Yeah, but that's not a conversation that everyone's having. But I will say this, right? We talked about what's your rate? What's your rate? There's a reason why the investor doesn't really care so much what the rate is. They're going to ask you, but they know that they're going to cash flow that property no matter what. So, and there's a reason also because, again, Michigan is one of the most affordable states in our nation at this point. There's other states that are affordable, but we have an amazing downtown Detroit, all the things. There's a lot going on here in Michigan, and people are coming from the outside in. And there's also, as a caveat to that, why there's more specifically for people that are going to own and occupy the home. There's more down payment assistance and specific programs for people that are going to own or occupy than ever, because again, they don't want to repeat the same, mistakes as yesteryear. They don't want the 3-bedroom flat like going for $3,000 a month like it does in New York. It's like some of these areas are just, the cost of living is so high. So in Michigan, they are really trying to incentivize people to stay and occupy these homes. You got to fill your due diligence, and let's just say you buy the duplex, you live in it for a year, then you can build your real estate portfolio. But you have to be with an amazing real estate agent and lender where you can build that strategic real estate portfolio.
And you made a good point too. Is buy a duplex, live in one unit, rent out the other unit. You can probably live for free.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I could go back and do it again, Becky Alley could go in her little time machine, that's what I would be doing. So that's why we are here to advocate, because you're just like our parents, right? You think they don't know any better, but they're also like, what's that proverb, right? If you want to know what the road ahead's like, you ask the people that are coming back that way. There's a reason why you got to listen, right? You got to listen to the people that have already done the things, but, we're humans and we got to figure it out ourselves. You know how that goes.
Becky always says if she go back to 23-year-old Becky, she'd start buying duplexes, live in one side, and then go ahead and rent the other side, then buy another one and do the same thing, rinse and repeat, right? But I got to believe, Mike, as an experienced realtor, you have a handful of investors that are looking for properties. And that they're coming in, they're looking to cherry pick And that takes away from a first-time home buyer. And they've got a lot of cash. They've got a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. There's a lot of cash right now sitting on the sidelines for investment. And that's what's going on. So those properties, every good realtor has a handful of investors that they're working with looking to gobble up properties. And this is what we in the residential market are looking at. This is our competition right now.
Yeah, it's cash flow too. Like you said, you got to know your numbers, because if someone is saying, "Hey, Becky, I want to buy my first investment property," well, my thing is I'm looking at those taxes and I'm also letting them know these are going to be the taxes once it uncaps and once they're non-homestead, because that is a direct line to what your cash flow is. So if you're with the wrong person and you're investing in the wrong property, you're not going to cash flow that like if you really truly wanted to, and that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. And to spin off what you said too is, as a first-time home buyer, and there's investors, there's competition, but it's also really important to note, don't overspend if you don't have to. Be patient if you're not in a rush. There is a lot of competition on there for the right house, but also to be smart about it.
All right, we got the perfect storm, though. You folks wanted lower interest rates. We've got them. 248-539-9797. Call Capital Mortgage Funding at 1-800-LOW RATE. You'll get that low rate. One other thing, lots of inventory out there, Mike. Inventory's up 17%. That's a good number, man. There's a lot to choose from out there. All right, when we come back, we've got some other great information for you. Would you believe that Realtor.com says that October 12th till October 18th is the best time to buy a house? Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We'll be right back. All righty, we're all licking our wounds here. All right, the Tigers had a really fine season, we'll say. Not too bad, Harry.
It's fine.
A little rough. It was good.
Rough way to end, but somebody had to lose that game last night. If you stayed up till like I did, there are a million people in Metro Detroit that stayed up and watched that game.
Yeah, they're tired, a little tired. It was 1:30 or so.
It was one of the best baseball games. Forget about the ending. Forget about the result. But if you're a baseball fan, you were on the edge of your seat every pitch. Even the players on every pitch were locked in. But anyways,
all right.
I could talk about sports.
Do a little bit of sports here.
Sports.
Michael Allen joins us here from National Realty, of course, here on the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. Becky Alley, I'm Harvey Freed, Harry Glantz. Always time to take your calls, 846. Give us a call, 248-539-9797. Right when we went to break, of course, I pulled the article out saying that this next week, October 12th through the 18th, is one of the hottest weeks and greatest weeks in real estate. But there's no doubt that it's been buyer-friendly over the last 30 to 45 days, Becky. We are seeing sellers' concessions. We're seeing homes sitting on the market for a little bit more because there's more inventory. So definitely in the right direction. And if you're thinking about buying a house before the calendar flips to next year, now might be your time.
Yeah, if you want home ownership to be a part of your reality, this is the time to have the conversations. It's like the market softening. So what that means is just that it's still competitive. You're still like those well-desired, nicely kept homes. They're still going to go multiple offers or still going to, be sold very, very quickly. But there's real opportunity for a buyer. So some of you that maybe got frustrated over the last couple of years and got in and got out and got in and got out, this is like Harvey said right before the break, it is the perfect storm. If you're waiting for the rates to drop, they're here. They're a full % lower than they were this time last year. And believe it or not, the market was hotter last year, because just people didn't care what the interest rate was because they had to do what they had to do what they had to do and they had to move. So this is an opportunity where you can get in before the snow hits the ground, and you can really, really win and make and get some deals out here. Like you can get the concessions. I have a lot of purchase agreements right now where sellers are contributing towards a buyer's closing costs and prepaid. So what does that mean is, for easy math, $100,000 loan, if you have to put $3,000 down, that's your 3%. Well, you can ask a seller to contribute 3% towards your closing costs and prepaid. So you're coming to the table with your $3,000 down payment, and you can get them to cover some of your closing costs and prepaid. You're getting in the house for your minimum contribution a lot of these times. But if you're not with the right lender and you're not with the right real estate team, you're going to miss those opportunities.
Becky, great stuff. FHA loans, of course, require 3.5% down. But if you get into the MJA loan on an FHA, now that $10,000 could go towards that down payment, and your minimum investment's only 1%. Although we look at the taxes and the insurance and, of course, the cost involved in closing, but not a lot of money. So many of my first-time homebuyers who have used MJA or down payment assistance, they're getting in for $3,500 to $6,000 out of pocket.
I even just had one this week where they used the first-time buyer program. Mm-hmm. They did their 1% contribution through their earnest money deposit, and they actually got their appraisal money back. So in these situations, you're closing on your first house, and you can get money back because the closing costs covered everything. The seller contributed some of the money, and they did their minimum contribution. They paid for the appraisal fee out of their own checking savings account, and there was enough of a surplus where we could actually give that money back. But you don't know what you don't know. And oftentimes I'm listed on, several websites. We'll get the phone calls like, I want to know about the first time buyer program. And there's nothing I love more than that phone call, because that's someone that is making a decision to change their current living situation. And if you're renting, or if you're in a situation where you're just not happy and you need to just move, it's not even just renting. Maybe you're living at home still, or whatever it is. Make that call. Invest in yourself. You can really change your life and your family members by getting into it and stabilizing your living situation instead of it being fluctuating based off of who you're living with and where you're living.
Yeah, unlike many years ago, Becky, and you know this, there were a handful of programs. There were maybe 5 or 6 programs. There was a 30-year, a 15-year. There was maybe one ARM program, a jumbo loan, and then FHA transaction. Now we have so many opportunities to put people in homes. Chenoa program, first time buyer programs, down payment assistance programs. Any way that we can help finance a home, we will do that for you. Now, again, a lot of them, you have to have a really good credit. There's certain minimum or maximum income requirements, and we do every single loan out there. If we can't get you into a house right this second, we can get you into a house 3, 5, 6 months from now. And we work with people that it takes time. Sometimes it's not a tomorrow thing or a next week thing. Sometimes it takes, Becky, 6 months, a year and a half. It's not unusual that we hold on to our clients and we work with them to help them get into that house.
For me, it's not if, it's when. And it's also making sure that we're setting you up for success, not just 5 minutes down the road, but 5 months, 5 years down the road. What does it look like? What is your timeline? What is your goals? But understanding that life is an ebb and flow. Things in your life are going to change. And you might want this to be your 5-year house and it might be your 15-year house. It just depends on what's going on. But knowing that you have a backseat driver like us, we're going to talk a lot. But if you want to turn right instead of left, okay, it might be a little bit bumpy if you decide to do that. But we're here along for the ride and we're going to guide you best we can.
All right, Mike, give us some last-minute things here. We're up against 9 o'clock when, of course, Pat Caputo will be coming in with sports, and he'll be licking all the wounds here. But let's talk mortgages and real estate for another 9 minutes and dive into a couple different things. You're working with some buyers now. What are they looking for when you get them into the house, or what are they telling you?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good question. So every buyer is different. So what are they looking for? They're looking for all sorts of things. So when I was a real estate agent and a real estate broker, I always ask, like, what's important to you? Do you like to have a nightlife? Do you like to be on land? Do you like to just go hunt? That's all really important. So I kind of gauge and try to narrow down some areas that might fit for them based off their lifestyle. That's really important.
Schools, of course, with younger families and kids, of course, are always looking to get into that better school district. I don't know how much of that stuff you can talk about. Sometimes I get feedback like, well, we can't bring that kind of stuff up. But there's no doubt that whether they say that's the schools or not, but they're looking for a particular city.
Yeah. It's got to fit your lifestyle 100%. And keep in mind, when you're a buyer, even a first-time home buyer, I've worked with people for 3 years. It's not an overnight thing. You got to get out there and take a look at properties, walk through it, let your agent teach you what to look for when you walk through the property. And it just takes time. It happens. So.
All right, we got a few minutes left here. Paul, let's go off to that call there. We got Rod calling in from Linden. Hey, Rod, good morning. Welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, I just got Harry, I promised I'd call in. So I bought a rental home about a year ago, had a renter in it, sent her, the short story is I sent her to 3 different people to get financing, all of them banks. But I listen to you guys pretty regularly. I'm a fan of Golden Reserve before you and then you guys on Saturdays. And Harry got her finance when nobody else could. So I guess what I'm saying is I will never, as I flip houses a lot, never send somebody to anybody not named Harry Glanz.
Oh, hey, there's a good one.
All right.
Wow, Rob, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Yeah, we had a very nice conversation. Rod called in and said he listened to the show. I got him, and we talked for a while, and I said, well, listen, I need the full story. So he put me in touch with his buyer of his house, and we went through all the things that we did, and she just needed some TLC. Nobody would dive into the details with this person. Lovely person, wanted to stay in the house that Rod had, and we made it happen for her. And listen, it works. You have a lot of people in our industry, and Rod knows this, and we all know this. If you take the time to get involved and do the deep dive and really have an interest in helping somebody out, you're going to help them out. Sometimes you have to say no, but in this case, we were able to do it, and it worked out very well, and we appreciate that. We're happy that she got in. We're happy, Rod, that you made the connection, and we really appreciate the relationship.
All right, Becky, on a positive note, there's no doubt about it. I don't want to say that maybe 7 out of 10 people you're calling aren't qualified to even answer your questions, but it might be true. If you're just willy-nilly clicking buttons, those are strangers calling you. Get the referral from your real estate agent, and then maybe give us a call. Of course, if you listen to the show, call us at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker. But Becky, there's no doubt, good advice isn't always easy to find.
Right. There's listen, if you call us and then all of a sudden another lender calls you, that is not the universe listening to you. That is them doing some predatory things, targeting you specifically. So you got to understand, if you call someone and ask them for their advice and what they have to say, and we're on that list, you're going to hear the difference, you're going to feel the difference, and then we're going to make sure you see that difference. And again, if someone is calling you after you call me, that is not the universe speaking to you, run away, because they are targeting you, and there's some legislation that's going to stop that, thank goodness, here in March. So
there's a huge difference when you talk to the professionals, because I talk to professional real estate agents all the time, and they sound totally different than the unqualified agents. And the same thing goes on the lending side. I always ask, as you do, Becky, does this conversation sound like the last one? It never does. They always go, no, Harvey, this is totally different. We're taking a deeper dive to make sure that you have that confidence to move forward. I think first-time home buyers, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the confidence, the pat on the back to say that they're doing the right thing.
No, I agree. 100%.
You just got to have to just call. You don't know what you don't know, and you're one decision away from changing your life, no matter what that is. And if homeownership wants to be a reality for you in 2026, you call us today.
All right.
You'll be able to tell the difference. If you call around. It's like everybody says, get a couple opinions. But you have to have that relationship with somebody. And you have to go with who you believe is going to treat you right.
All right. The Tigers are putting the tarp on the field. They'll be back. Don't worry. They'll be back next spring and in the winter, of course, down in Lakeland. So don't get all bummed out. Yeah, we got the Detroit Lions. We got tons of sports. If you're into college sports, if you're into the Red Wings or the Pistons, keep it here on 97.1. We got Pat Caputo. He's coming up with sports next. Catch us next Saturday on the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. We'll see you next Saturday.